Thursday's Trio of Terror tonight. Giles Corey, crushed by own ego, requests more weight to prove it. The Black Prince gives French king a black eye at Battle of Poitiers. And Otzi the Iceman found chilling in the Alps for 5,300 years. Plus, coming up, we ask the question, what's the deal with pigeons? Can they really predict the stock market? Those are the headlines. May the news be kind to your soul.
News Bang, exposing the flaming underbelly of truth to the tormented masses. La Cité, 1692.
Salem resident Giles Corey was crushed to death today for refusing to enter a plea in his witchcraft trial. Eyewitnesses report that as the weight piled on, Corey's last words were, "More weight, you lily-livered ninnies."
The execution, carried out by Sheriff Butterfingers McGee, took a bizarre turn when the makeshift press collapsed, sending stones rolling into the crowd. 3 spectators were injured, with one claiming, "I've been bewitched by a flying rock."
Local tavern owner, goodwife Prudence Prattle, expressed her outrage. They could have at least used the weight to make cheese instead of wasting it on some old coot.
The Salem Chamber of Commerce has already capitalized on the event, announcing plans for a Squish-a-Witch attraction at next year's Harvest Festival.
1356.
The French army has been utterly humiliated by a bunch of English peasants with pointy sticks. The Battle of Poitiers, or as it's now being called, the Great French Cock-Up of 1356, saw King John II captured after his entire army was routed by a significantly smaller English force.
Eyewitnesses report that the French cavalry, upon seeing the English longbowmen, immediately surrendered their horses and begged for mercy. One French knight, Sir Pierre de Fromage, was heard screaming, "Mon Dieu, they have bows! We only have these silly metal suits and lances."
The Black Prince, Edward of Woodstock, celebrated his victory by forcing the captured French king to wear a jester's hat and juggle for the troops' amusement. When asked for comment, King John said, "I would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for those meddling English and their stupid arrows."
1991.
A 5,300-year-old man has been found perfectly preserved in the Austrian Alps, causing widespread panic among the scientific community. The mummy, nicknamed Otzi after the valley where he was discovered, was initially mistaken for a discarded mannequin from a nearby Lederhosen factory.
Upon closer inspection, researchers were astounded to find that Otzi was wearing the world's oldest pair of Crocs, predating the company by several millennia. His impeccably maintained beard has sent hipsters into a frenzy, with some claiming he's the true father of the man bun.
Otzi's last meal, consisting of ibex jerky and wild wheat porridge, has already been trademarked by a health food company as the Paleolithic Power Bowl. Meanwhile, tattoo enthusiasts are clamoring to replicate Otzi's 61 tattoos, despite warnings that they may summon ancient alpine spirits.
News Bang, standing at the precarious crossroads of propaganda and perspicacity.
And now, with a forecast that's sure to shake things up, here's our catastrophe correspondent, Shakanaka Giles, with news of a trembling tomorrow for Mexico City.
Well, if it isn't a bit of a shake-up on the cards for old Mexico City tomorrow. Seems the ground's got a bit of a rumble in its tummy, a grumble that'll register a whopping 8.0 on the old Richter scale. Now, that's enough to make even the sturdiest sombrero quiver. Imagine the entire city rocking and rolling like a mariachi band after a few too many tequilas. Rescue efforts? Bah! The government will be as slow as a sloth in a treacle factory. Folks will be left waiting for aid, their cries drowned out by the cacophony of crumbling concrete. Homeless by the thousands, a veritable refugee camp of ponchos and piñatas. But fear not, amigos, the international community will swoop in like a flock of concerned hummingbirds, ready to pick up the pieces and make sure Mexico City is back on its feet quicker than you can say, "Ay caramba!" In summary then, a seismic shimmy, a bureaucratic bungle, and a global helping hand. Oh, and that's all the weather.
1356.
In 1356, the Battle of Poitiers saw the English forces, led by the Black Prince, crush the French army in a stunning upset. The outnumbered English, armed with their deadly longbows, not only repelled the French cavalry, but also managed to capture King John II himself. This victory sent shockwaves through medieval Europe, leaving France in disarray and cementing England's military prowess. For more on this historic clash, we go to our war correspondent, Brian Bastable. Brian?
Greetings, dear listener, as bullets and booms shatter the evening air. I, Brian Bastable, stand here amidst the storm of steel and fire, witnessing the anniversary of one of history's most storied and savage conflicts. The Battle of Poitiers, marked by the blade of Edward the Black Prince, stands as a decisive victory etched in history. The battlefield, a grim sight filled with blood and gore, reeks of death and destruction. French soldiers, clad in resplendent plate with their blood-red crosses, firm in spirit, face the deadly symphony of English longbows. Arrows descend like vengeful fury, cutting down the French forces. The Black Prince orders a shield wall. The French, a wall of steel and sinew, charge into their doom. The clash of steel is deafening as the English hold firm with their spears. A volley of arrows from the English rains death, cutting down the French like wheat before the scythe. The gruesome scene of screams and blood mixes with mud and filth, testifying to war's cruelty. The French, unbroken in spirit, charge one final time, but the English stand as an iron barrier. Another storm of arrows from the English seals the French fate. The French retreat in defeat, their spirits broken, while the English stand triumphant, their indomitable spirit unwavering. As I stand amidst the aftermath, I am reminded of war's cruelty and senseless loss. But I am a witness, a chronicler, tasked to tell the tales that shape our world. So I leave you now, dear listener, as the sun sets upon Poitiers, a grim reminder of war's cruelty and a testament to the indomitable spirit of both the English and the French, a tale to be told for generations. Brian Bastable, Newsbang.
Masutei, 1692.
And now, a chilling tale from this day in 1692. Giles Corey, accused of witchcraft in Salem, met a gruesome end. Refusing to enter a plea, he was subjected to the barbaric practice of pressing. As stones piled upon his chest, Corey's last words were reportedly, "More weight." This macabre event marked a turning point in the infamous witch trials. For more on this weighty matter, we turn to our crime correspondent, Ken Schitt. Ken, what can you tell us about this crushing development in colonial justice?
Good evening, you slack-jawed yokels. Tonight we're diving headfirst into the festering cesspool of human stupidity known as the Salem Witch Trials. It's 1692, and the good people of Massachusetts have their knickers in a twist over some hocus-pocus bullshit. Enter Giles Corey, an 80-year-old farmer with balls of steel and a spine to match. When these Bible-thumping numbskulls accused him of witchcraft, did he roll over? Hell no. He told them to shove their kangaroo court where the sun don't shine. But these pious pricks weren't having it. They decided to play a little game called Crush the Old Man, using their favorite toy, Pain forte et dur. That's French for, let's stack rocks on this poor bastard until he cries, uncle. As they piled on stone after stone, Corey, this absolute mad lad, looks the sheriff dead in the eye and says, more weight. Can you believe the titanium gonads on this geezer? He's being crushed to death, and he's asking for seconds. Meanwhile, the rest of Salem's having a collective aneurysm, accusing everyone and their grandmother of dancing with the devil. It's a witch hunt free-for-all, folks, and common sense has left the building. This shitstorm of stupidity would go on to become a stain on American history darker than a demon's asshole. It's a stark reminder that when fear and ignorance take the wheel, we're all just one pitchfork away from barbarities. So next time you think about accusing your neighbor of witchcraft, remember old Giles Corey. He died like he lived, crushing it. This is Ken Shit, reminding you that the only real magic is the power of critical thinking. Use it, you knuckle-dragging troglodytes.
1944.
And on this day in 1944, Finland, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom signed the Moscow Armistice, ending the continuation war. This conflict, which began in 1941, saw Finland align with Nazi Germany against the Soviet Union. The armistice forced Finland to make significant territorial concessions and pay hefty war reparations. This event reshaped Finland's political landscape and its relationships with warring powers. For more on this historic agreement and its far-reaching consequences, we turn to our diplomatic correspondent, Hardeman Pesto.
Martin, I'm here in Moscow where the ink is still wet on the armistice agreement. The mood is tense, but there's a palpable sense of relief among the Finnish delegation.
Pesto, can you give us any details about the terms of this armistice?
Absolutely, Martin. The Finns have agreed to give up their favorite saunas, hand over all their reindeer, and teach Russian to every citizen over the age of 3.
That doesn't sound right, Pesto. Are you sure about those terms?
Well, I might have misheard a bit. The negotiations were conducted entirely in Finnish and Russian, you see. Very tricky languages.
Did you have a translator with you?
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm here with noted linguist and armistice expert, Professor Olga Herringbone. Professor, could you clarify the terms for us?
Certainly. The main points of the armistice include Finland ceding territory to the Soviet Union, paying war reparations, and expelling German forces from their soil.
Ah yes, that's what I meant by saunas and reindeer.
Pesto, how on earth did you get saunas and reindeer from territory and reparations?
Well, Martin, it's all a matter of interpretation, isn't it? I mean, what is a sauna if not Finnish territory? And reindeer, well, they're practically walking reparations, aren't they?
No, Pesto, they're not. Professor Herringbone, could you please explain the significance of this armistice?
This agreement effectively ends Finland's involvement in World War II and will have far-reaching consequences for the balance of power in the Nordic region.
Yes, and I've heard rumors that Santa Claus might have to relocate his workshop. Big news for the elves, Martin.
Pesto, we're talking about a serious geopolitical event, not Christmas folklore. Professor, how do you think this will affect Finland's relationship with the Soviet Union going forward?
It's likely to be complex. Finland will need to navigate a delicate balance between maintaining its independence and appeasing its powerful neighbor.
Much like my relationship with the hotel minibar, wouldn't you say, Martin?
No, Pesto, I wouldn't. Is there anything else of actual substance you can tell us about the signing of this armistice?
Well, I did notice that Stalin's mustache looked particularly bushy today. Do you think that's a sign of Soviet aggression, Martin?
I think it's a sign that this interview is over. Hardeman Pesto, thank you for that. Unique perspective from Moscow.
Good date, 1995.
And on this day in 1995, the Washington Post took the extraordinary step of publishing the Unabomber Manifesto, a decision that would ultimately lead to the capture of domestic terrorist Ted Kaczynski. In a move that blurred the lines between journalism and law enforcement, the Post's editors grappled with the ethical implications of giving a platform to a serial bomber. Little did they know that their decision would not only aid in Kaczynski's capture, but also spark a national debate on the role of technology in society. For more on this story, we go to our American correspondent, Melody Wintergreen.
This is Melody Wintergreen, reporting from the nation's capital, where a historic moment is unfolding. The Washington Post's decision to publish the Unabomber Manifesto in 1995 has reverberated through the decades, and its impact is still being felt today. 29 years ago, the Post made the controversial choice to give a voice to domestic terrorist Ted Kaczynski, unleashing his 35,000-word diatribe against modern industrial society. But what they unleashed was a force more powerful than any bomb, a tidal wave of public discourse that would ultimately lead to Kaczynski's downfall. As the manifesto hit the presses, the nation was captivated, transfixed by Kaczynski's twisted vision. Academics and pundits alike dissected his arguments, some finding unsettling truth in his critiques of technology and industrialization. But the ethical quandary lingered. Had the Post made a Faustian bargain, trading journalistic integrity for the chance to catch a killer? Yet, in a twist of fate, it was the manifesto's publication that would prove Kaczynski's undoing. His own brother David recognized the distinctive writing style and turned him into the authorities. The noose was tightening, and Kaczynski's reign of terror was about to come to an explosive end. Now, nearly 3 decades later, the reverberations of that fateful decision continue to echo. The Unabomber Manifesto stands as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the delicate balance between informing the public and empowering the unhinged. And as we grapple with the societal impacts of technology in this new millennium, Kaczynski's twisted vision remains a haunting specter, a dark mirror reflecting the anxieties of a world in flux. So, as we look back on this historic moment, we are left to ponder the consequences, both intended and unintended, of giving voice to the unthinkable. For in the end, the Washington Post's decision to publish the Unabomber Manifesto proved to be a Pandora's box, unleashing forces that would shake the very foundations of our society. This is Melody Wintergreen, reporting from Washington, D.C.
News Bang, wielding facts as mighty weapons against a barrel of spin.
And now, with a report on how women's suffrage in New Zealand impacted the environment, here's Penelope Windchime.
Greetings, eco-warriors and tree-huggers. Penelope Windchime here, bringing you a blast from the past that'll make your leaves quiver and your roots tingle. On this very day in 1893, New Zealand became the first country to grant women the right to vote. Oh, what a glorious day for Mother Earth and all her daughters. Picture it. Suffragettes marching through the streets of Wellington, their petticoats swishing like wind through the willows, their voices raised in harmony with the native tui birds. But let me tell you, dear listeners, this wasn't just a victory for women. It was a triumph for the entire ecosystem. You see, as soon as women got the vote, they immediately passed laws banning the hunting of moa birds and instituting mandatory hugging sessions for Kari trees. The men of New Zealand, bless their cotton socks, were so shocked by this turn of events that they collectively held their breath for a full minute, reducing carbon emissions by a whopping 0.000%. And let's not forget the impact on the local fauna. The Kiwi birds, in a show of solidarity, started walking upright and wearing tiny suffragette sashes. Even the sheep, those woolly paragons of democracy, began bleating in Morse code. Votes for yous! Votes for yous! So remember, my darling eco-warriors, every time you cast your vote, you're not just participating in democracy, you're channeling the spirit of those brave New Zealand women who paved the way for a greener, more equal world. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go hug a fern in celebration. This has been Penelope Windchime, your voice for the voiceless leaves and the silent streams.
1991.
And now, for a chilling tale of archaeological discovery that's sure to send shivers down your spine, we turn to our science correspondent, Calamity Prendeville.
Good evening, science enthusiasts. Today marks the anniversary of a chilly discovery that's got archaeologists hot under the collar. On this day in 1991, 2 German tourists stumbled upon a prehistoric popsicle in the Alps. A well-preserved gentleman we've affectionately dubbed Otzi.
Now, you might think this was just dumb luck, but I can reveal it was all thanks to British ingenuity. The revolutionary Defrost-O-Matic 3000, developed by Peckham Polytechnic, had been secretly melting glaciers for weeks. Its creator, Dr. Nigel Thor Bottom, claims it was designed to give the Alps a proper British summer.
Otzi, it turns out, was quite the trendsetter. His copper axe suggests he was the world's first DIY enthusiast, while his tattoos indicate he invented the tramp stamp millennia before it became fashionable.
But the real breakthrough comes from his perfectly preserved stomach contents. Scientists have concluded that Otzi was the inventor of the full English breakfast, having consumed a hearty meal of bacon, eggs and baked beans just before his untimely demise.
Otzi's discovery has revolutionised our understanding of prehistoric fashion. His leather loincloth and grass cape ensemble is already inspiring next season's London Fashion Week. So next time you're enjoying a fry-up or getting inked, remember to thank Otzi, the fiery 300-year-old influencer who's taking the archaeological world by storm. This is Calamity Prendeville, signing off from the iciest story since the invention of the cornetto.
News bang! In a universe where truths are like fractals, each one mirroring the whole. 1970.
And now, a look back at this day in 1970 when the fields of Somerset played host to a gathering that would change the face of British music forever. The inaugural Glastonbury Festival, then modestly dubbed the Pilton Pop, Folk and Blues Festival, saw 1,500 revellers descend upon Michael Eavis's farm. This counterculture extravaganza, born from the ashes of the swinging 60s, featured the Kinks and Wayne Fontana after T-Rex's last-minute cancellation. Little did anyone know that this muddy congregation would evolve into the cultural behemoth we know today. For more on this pivotal moment in music history, we go to our culture correspondent, Smithsonia Moss.
Now, at this point of the evening, we welcome listeners on FM who've just joined us.
Whoa, folks! It's your girl, Smithsonia Moss. And I'm here to give you the lowdown on the most iconic music festival of all time, Glastonbury. Can you believe it's been over 50 years since the first Glastonbury Festival went down on Michael Eavis's farm in 1970? I mean, what a trip, right? The original vision was to create a celebration of music, art, and counterculture, and boy, did they deliver. I heard the first festival was a total free-for-all, with hippies, dogs, and even a goat or two roaming around. The headlining act was supposed to be T-Rex, but they bailed, and the Kinks and Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders took over. Can you imagine the vibes, man? It was like a giant love-in, with everyone dancing and singing along to the tunes. But let's get real, folks. The first Glastonbury Festival wasn't all rainbows and unicorns. I mean, the toilets were basically just holes in the ground, and the food was like whatever you could scrounge up from the local farms. And don't even get me started on the state of the attendees. It was like a giant mud pit, with everyone rolling around in the muck. Despite the chaos, the festival was a huge success, and it paved the way for the modern Glastonbury Festival, which is now one of the biggest and most iconic music festivals in the world. I mean, who wouldn't want to attend a festival that's had everyone from David Bowie to Beyoncé perform on its stages? So, there you have it, folks. The first Glastonbury Festival was a wild and crazy ride. but it set the stage for something truly special. And if you ever find yourself in the UK in June, you owe it to yourself to check it out. Just don't forget your wellies and a healthy dose of hippie chic. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about the local community? Did they love having a bunch of hippies and rock stars descend upon their quiet little town? Well, let's just say it was a mixed bag, folks. Some people loved the energy and the excitement, while others were all, "Get off my lawn, you pesky hippies." But, hey, that's all part of the charm, right? Glastonbury Festival is all about pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo. And if that means a few grumpy locals have to deal with some noise and chaos, so be it. Anyway, that's all for now, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this special report on the first Glastonbury Festival. If you're feeling nostalgic for the good old days, just remember, you can always recreate the magic of 1970 by attending a modern music festival and rolling around in the mud. Peace, love, and rock and roll.
Dealer news bang, because the facts deserve a drumroll. 1846.
And now, a celestial spectacle from this day in 1846. 2 French shepherd children claim to have encountered a beautiful lady near La Salette-Falavo. This luminous figure, purportedly the Virgin Mary herself, delivered a stern warning of divine retribution for the unrepentant. Initially met with skepticism, the apparition gained official recognition in 1851, culminating in a papal coronation in 1879. For more on this heavenly happenstance, we turn to our faith correspondent, Pastor Kevin Monstrance.
Good evening, my flock. Pastor Kevin here, ready to regale you with a tale of divine visions and wayward producers. But first, let me just say, if any of you spot our dear producer Martin skulking about in the shadows, do give him a gentle nudge. Last I saw, he was trying to convert the coffee machine to dispense holy water. Bless his misguided soul. Now, on to our story. The year was 1846, and in the quaint French village of La Salette-Falavo, 2 young shepherds were about to have their lives turned upside down. Melanie Calva and Maximin Giraud were tending to their flocks, minding their own business, when suddenly a dazzling light appeared before them. Lo and behold, it was the Virgin Mary herself, resplendent in flowing robes and a halo that would put our studio lighting to shame. But here's the rub. Our dear Mother Mary was in tears, weeping and wailing like a contestant on Britain's Got Talent who'd just been buzzed off by Simon Cowell. She had a message for the children, a dire warning of impending doom and gloom if the people didn't mend their wicked ways. Now, when Melanie and Maximin tried to share their incredible story, they were met with more skepticism than a UFO sighting at a science convention. The local bishop was having none of it, dismissing their claims faster than you can say sacrilegious shenanigans. It wasn't until 5 years later, after much hemming and hawing, that the apparition was finally given the official thumbs up. Which reminds me of a joke. Stop me if you've heard this one before. A bishop, a shepherd, and the Virgin Mary walk into a bar. The bartender looks up and says, "What is this? Some kind of apparition?" But here's the real punchline. Our producer Martin, bless his heart, decided to make a pilgrimage to the site of the apparition last summer. He figured he'd have a little chat with the Virgin Mary, maybe get some insider tips on running a successful TV show. So off he goes, hiking up the mountain, sweating like a sinner in church, when suddenly he spots a figure in the distance. "Holy Mother of Pearl!" he cries out. "Is that you, Mary?" As he gets closer, the figure turns around, and who should it be but our very own camera operator, Nigel, dressed in a flowing robe and a cheap plastic halo. Turns out Nigel had a bit too much of the sacramental wine the night before and thought it would be a hoot to play a prank on poor Martin. Well, let's just say Martin's faith was tested that day. along with his blood pressure. He came back to the studio ranting and raving about divine visions and practical jokes. We had to sedate him with a cup of chamomile tea and a rerun of Songs of Praise. But the real lesson here, my friends, is that sometimes the most profound messages can come from the most unexpected places, whether it's a shepherd child, a cheeky camera operator, or even a humble TV pastor like yours truly. The key is to keep an open mind and an open heart. And if all else fails, just remember, if the Virgin Mary appears to you in tears, it's probably best not to tell her to cheer up, love. It might never happen. Trust me on that one. Until next time, may the good Lord bless you and keep you, and may Martin never find the holy water setting on the coffee machine. Amen.
Just time for the final look at tomorrow's papers. The Times led with Thatcher tells Europe to stuff it. There's a picture there of Mrs. Thatcher looking bossy. The Telegraph go with Roundheads get stuck in at Newbury. There's an illustration of a man with a round helmet. The Independent. Italian army invades Vatican in unholy mess. There's a snap of some Italian soldiers climbing over a gate. And the Mail have sunburn fear for badgers. There's no apparent connection between that story and the rest of the news. The Express has an unusual leader. Men should stop wearing socks, say doctors. Sounds like another thing to worry about. That's it. Newsbang is off the air in some regions until next week. If you have been, thanks for listening. Good night.
Tune in next time for more artificially intelligent hilarity. Newsbang is a comedy show, written and recorded by AI. All voices impersonated. Nothing here is real. Good night.